안녕하세요. 오늘은 오랜만에 Whangarei에 왔습니다. 보통 Whangarei라고 얘기를 하는데 Whangarei가 정확한 발음일 겁니다. Whangarei에 오면 제일 유명한 것 중에 하나가 Claphams National Clock Museum, 클래팜의 국립 시계박물관입니다. 남반구에서는 가장 크고 또 가장 많은 시계들을 가지고 있는 그런 박물관입니다. 세계적으로 아주 유명합니다. 한번 들어가 보겠습니다.
Our founder, Mr. Clapham, he came 1903 from Yorkshire in England here to New Zealand as a young man, and he started the collection. So he collected the first 400 clocks during his lifetime. And this year the museum is 63 years old, and we have now, through donations, loans and some purchases, over 1,400 clocks here in the whole museum. Mr. Clapham, he was not a clockmaker from his profession, he was an engineer, but he loved to play around with his clocks and modify clocks. And you will find all of these clocks still somewhere in the museum. So we have a couple of these bigger ones here on display. You see here the wooden clocks, so they are made in the Black Forest in Germany. It's really sophisticated work. You see here all the nice carvings. And this one here is a clock from 1850, and that we call it the monastery clock, because something happening down here. So when I pull a string, so there's a little monk inside, and he's ringing the bell, the call for the prayer, every 6 hours. And when this clock was fully working, there was a cuckoo coming out of here and telling the time each hour. Here you can read the time with the eyes. So we have an hour eye here and a minute eye. It's little marks in the eyes, and that's how you can read the time. And they are made around 1930 in Germany from a company called Oswald. Over here, that big clock here in the middle is also made in the Black Forest in Germany. It's from about, between 1866 and 1870. Again, we have the really nice carvings here. And then just have to give it a little wind. And then see what's happening here. This is a grandfather clock, over 330 years old. So that was made around 1690 in England by a famous English clockmaker. His name was Charles Gretton. And you can see it's still working. The seconds, and here is the date. So that was quite unusual, because clocks in the 17th century often had just one hand, because it was cheaper at this 1940. And it's also made in England, and here we have just one hand. Do you have a guess? Do you have a guess what the time is on this one?
1:15.
Good, There's not a lot of people can read that. So you have to see always between the Roman numerals these little marks. There's always these 3 marks in between, and each mark is standing for 15 minutes. With that water clock here, they would fill water here, in here, and then setting that on top here, and the water would drip out in that container, and while the water level is going down like this, that hand here would move, and that's how you could say, okay, it's now 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 hours later. And when you put that on a bucket with water, it will fill up in 1 hour. This is a replica of the first pocket watch. So rumor has it that the first pocket watch was already invented 1510 over in Germany by a German clockmaker called Peter Henlein. The pocket watch you see on top in that little glass dome, that's the oldest pocket watch we have here in the museum, and that's a pocket watch from 1713. A 24-hour pocket watch. So this style here is the Speaker's clock, and that was made or hung actually in the Parliament in Wellington till 1903. Yeah, and all the other clocks you see, so this has something to do with the marine collection, the marine clocks, the ship clocks, yeah. This is quite a famous one that was made by Edward Dent. So Edward Dent was the clockmaker who made the clock in the Elizabeth Tower in Big Ben in London. And this one is not working anymore, but it has a beautiful chime, this one. Here's another one. You can see how beautiful this is worked. Here's a German clock. So the cuckoo clocks you see here along the wall, they are all made in Germany. So a lot of people think that cuckoo clocks were made in Switzerland, but now they were made in Germany, and mainly in the Black Forest area. And the clocks you see here, so the top ones, so like this one and all these ones, they are in the traditional style, because they always have the stag on top, the hunting motifs, here a bit morbid, the dead animals, the horn, the gunpowder pouch. In the little houses, we call them chalet style or Bahnhäusle. A Bahnhäusle was a little train station along the tracks, the train tracks. So they are all hand painted, hand glued, hand carved, and that makes them so expensive even till today. So these days, of course, the cuckoo clocks have really good clock mechanisms inside, and you these days can't buy a good cuckoo clock under 500 euros, and that goes up to 2,000 or 3,000 euros. Yeah, and it depends on the size as well. And then over here. So this one is an old music box called Polyphone, and it was made in 1890 in East Germany in Leipzig, and the brand name is Comet or Comet in English. And this was used here in New Zealand on a steamboat. I will open it up. This was the steamship where that was on, yeah. And that was cruising between Thames and Auckland at this time. So you have to imagine 1890, that was the time when we had less streets in New Zealand, less cars. It was a long way to go from Thames to Auckland. So that steamship could go in 3 hours and 15 minutes from Thames to Auckland, and I was told you could sit down here in the lounge on velvet seats and have your cup of tea and your sandwich, and the Comet was just in the corner for entertainment. So we have our magic drawer here.
Like LP disc.
Yeah. And this is how the discs look like, yeah. So to play it, we need, because it's a mechanical instrument, so no power, no battery, we have a really big spring here inside, like in a clock. And we have to wind that up with that handle here. Make the spring tighter, bring some tension in it. And then we need a little activator. That is our halfpenny from 1964, an old New Zealand coin. And that fits perfectly from the weight and the size here in the side in the slot. And then hopefully the music is playing. Another really interesting musical instrument here. So that looks from the inside like this one here. And this was used by street musicians who walked the streets and earned a little bit of money with that. And you have to use the handle here, and then it sounds like a piano. So that's a clock with an alarm function, and you can put here in this one your water and here your tea leaves, and then you can set an alarm and you can wake up in the morning with a fresh brewed cup of tea.